Hi students, this is your weekly update at the end of week 2. A reminder that all week 2 assignments are due at the end of the day on Saturday. So in this video, I'm just going to give you a brief sense of reviewing the week that has just passed. We're going to talk a little bit about the discussion boards and about the journals, and then I'm going to preview what's coming up in week 3. So first of all, when it comes to the journals, and there have been some fantastic responses this week. I went with more philosophical questions. Who are you? What is the United States? I just want you to think about why it's important to ask these questions when you begin a history class, and how similar it is asking who you are and asking who the country are. Not that you and the country are the same, not that you have the same answers, but the thought process it's interesting to me how similar it is. So there have been some really good reflections on the journals. What I would just say is that if you want to extend the conversation, continue the conversation, more than welcome that. As you can tell, I'm really enjoying some of the reflections, but I ask you to do that via email. So you make your journal entry. I may comment on your journal entry when I grade it, and just kind of what came to mind for me. But then after that, it's quite difficult for me to access the journal again after I've graded it. And I don't get any notifications that you've commented again. So those comments tend to get lost. So that's why I'm saying that if you want to continue the conversation, which I think is great, to pick it up over email and just say, hey, I'm responding to what you said when you commented on the journal. Just wanted to keep this going. I think that's great. So please feel free to do that, but do it over email rather than through the journal entry. When it comes to the discussion boards, this is just some points of etiquette or netiquette as we move forward. Remember that these discussion boards are composed of an initial post and then 2 comments that you make on 2 other threads. Now, if I see that you've made your initial post and you've made your 2 comments and that it's 10 out of 10 work, I'm going to give you a grade and I'm going to enter that grade so I can keep up to date with my grading. That doesn't mean you should stop participating. It just means you've done the minimum that's required to get full credit. If I see that you've made your initial post and you've made your 2 comments, but it's not quite 10 out of 10 work, or perhaps it's not even close to 10 out of 10 work, then I'm not going to grade it. I'm going to wait until the deadline. I'm going to give you the opportunity to go back to your discussion board and try and improve it. And so this is just me saying that if you have posted your initial post, you've commented twice, it's been a couple of days, you haven't seen your grade come through, maybe think about looking back at that post and those comments, think, could I improve on those a little bit? Could I get those up to a 10? So that's just some advice there. When it comes to commenting, this is the most difficult part, really. The most difficult part to get right. A couple of points here. Firstly, that we're online. So it's difficult to convey emotions. It's easy for people to feel more attacked. I don't think anyone's going to do this in this class, to attack someone personally. I haven't seen any evidence that any of you are like that so far, so good job. And that's attacking someone is very different from disagreeing with someone. I think disagreeing with someone is absolutely fantastic. If you have a disagreement, you want to nuance what someone said, that is just fine. That being said, in order to help convey your reaction when we're online, I think it's fine and good to compliment the person whose post you're commenting on. You don't have to do that, but it's nice to say, hey, this was interesting, I disagreed. This was interesting, I agreed. This is interesting, it made me think about this. But you want to make sure that your entire comment, or most of your comment, isn't about complimenting the previous person. If your entire comment is saying, this was really interesting, thank you for saying this in such a convincing way, that's not really building a conversation, which is what we're trying to do here. So it's fine to briefly compliment the person who's made the post, but then you want to move on to building the conversation. Hey, this was really interesting. I disagreed because of this aspect of the text. You want to get us back to talking about the text. So make sure your comments are robust and are really building on what the original poster, has said in answer to the question. So that's the first thing. Make sure that you are building a conversation. And the second thing is also related to building a conversation. And that's that if someone has asked a question on the thread already, relating to the particular question that you're responding to, so the initial poster has responded to 2 questions, and so he's responded to one about the bison hunting spear and one about Cortez. And other people have been talking about Cortez on the thread already, and you want to jump in on that too. That's great. But if the last person to talk about Cortez on the thread asked a question, it's good manners, it's polite to respond and acknowledge that question in some way. Even if it's, that's a really good question, I don't know the answer, here's my best guess. And then you go on to your main point. That's fine. But if someone's asked a question about Cortez and you go blitzing on talking about some other totally different part of the text, that's not really helping us build a conversation and a learning community. Now, if you want to talk about the bison spear, go for it. You're not being rude if you want to switch to talking about the other question that the initial poster commented on. That's just fine. So just keep that in mind. Make sure your comments are building a conversation. Make sure you're responding to the questions that other people have asked. Okay, so that's the week in review. I hope that's helpful going forward. A couple of housekeeping points. Some people are asking where the questions are that they should respond to. The questions are at the end of the source, each individual source in the book. So when you're going through the book, you have source, questions, and then at the end of the chapter, you have a bunch of questions that are called comparative questions that bring in all the sources from that chapter. But we're not reading all the sources from each chapter. So the questions that you're answering are the questions at the end of the source that you've been assigned. So spear questions, those are the questions that you're answering about the spear. Cortez questions, those are the questions that you're answering about Cortez. I hope that makes sense. Remember that these are from the sources that are to be found in the readings from the American Past source book, not from the narrative history textbook. So make sure you're looking in the source book for the sources that we're discussing on the discussion boards and the textbook for the narrative that we're reading about along with the lectures. So I hope that clears up everything. Some people have been having difficulty because their textbooks haven't come in yet and everything is slowed down. What I recommend to a lot of people is to contact the library. At least we were told as faculty that the library would make scans for you since they can't loan you the textbooks that are on reserve. But they would make scans for you of the relevant chapter while you're waiting for your book to come in. Now, don't use this for the whole semester and abuse the kindness of the library staff, but as a way not to buy the textbook. But if you're waiting for your textbook to come in, then it's fine, and that would be my recommendation to call the library. But if you have any problems with finding the sources and the questions for discussion or finding the textbook that aren't resolved, then make sure to email me or call me. Okay. So that's the week in review. I think those are most of the issues that have been coming up. The week ahead, we're going to look at the English colonies. And so you have a number of videos to look at. This material on the English colonies is pretty fascinating. It's the very earliest developments of the founding colonies of the United States. And we see these people, I think this fits so well with our themes of struggles towards achievement. These people were faced with really challenging circumstances, disease, cold weather, hardship, and nevertheless they were able to build these settlements that would survive, that are still the basis for cities in the United States today. And it also works really well with our theme of freedom. Most of these people are coming to what will become the United States in search of freedom, either greater religious freedom, like we see in New England, or perhaps greater economic freedom. That's more typical of what we see in the colonies further south in Virginia. So I hope you really enjoy this material. I find the study of the colonies at this very early stage, when it's very manageable and very small numbers of people, I really enjoy that. So I hope you do too. We have a slightly busier week in terms of assignments this week. We have a writing assignment, which is pretty straightforward. You're just outlining one of the sources. It might be the type of assignment you're already familiar with from high school. But then we also have an essay. So there are 6 essay questions. You need to pick one of them and write a 5-paragraph essay. And if writing is something that's difficult for you, this is something you want to start early and something you want to ask for help with. That means you ask a friend or relative, can you read this through for me so someone else has seen it? It means you talk to the Eastern New Mexico University Writing Center. They're available online. They'll work with you. Most people think not on campus, can't use the Writing Center. But that's not how it works here. The Writing Center will work with online students. They will give you exactly the same care and attention in looking over your paper that someone else that they would to an in-person student, a student on campus. So this is just the sort of assignment that you should take advantage of for that sort of thing. These tools have been placed there so that you can succeed. So please take advantage of them. Take advantage of people around you who will help you. Take advantage of the Writing Center. Take advantage of me. I know what an A-grade essay for this assignment looks like better than anyone else. So if you're not sure, then send me an email. Happy to look at the draft for you. But that means you have to start this thing ahead of time. Wednesday, maybe Thursday. You need to have a plan for how you're going to write the essay. Maybe you need to have a draft. So keep that in mind. If you're scrambling to do it on Saturday night, it's just not going to be very good. Or it's highly unlikely that it will be very good. So try and build that into your schedule. Know that we have a larger assignment coming up this week. Hope this has been helpful. Looking forward to seeing you all soon.